Welcome to the 2019 season. Appreciate everybody being here today. Really excited for this season. Really enjoy coaching this football team. I know they're really excited about playing somebody else, right? I think I speak for every coach in America. You get to this time of year, and you just want to play somebody else so you get a chance to see where your team's at, because nobody really knows where your team's at until you go play somebody. And we're really looking forward to that. I'm sure South Dakota State's looking forward to that too. I'm really proud of the progress we've made as a football team. Really proud of how connected this football team is. We've worked really hard at that to be able to establish that this year on all levels and all fronts in very unique and creative ways. But I'm really proud of the progress we're making, and we look forward to getting this thing kicked off on Thursday night. So with that, we'll open up for questions.
In the couple of weeks that Tanner's had the job outright, what have you seen in him, and what's the next step?
Yeah, I've seen a lot more reps. I mean, to keep it obvious, right? I've seen a lot more reps. I've seen a lot of failing. I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen a lot of learning moments. Tanner's one of those guys, when he makes a mistake, he'll own up to it. He'll be accountable to it. He'll take responsibility for it, and then he'll move on. He has incredible response mechanisms. I think that's what makes him very unique. That's part of the intangible category, right? He's not a big 6'5" guy. He can't throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. But he's got these intangibles that are off the charts, and one of them is the ability to respond, and I really respect him for that in all areas. He's got a long way to go. He's got a lot of room for improvement, but I've been able to see that, and then that turns into the leadership role, because everybody else does the same thing, and it's infectious when the quarterback's doing it all the time, and he is the leader of the team. He is the pulse of the team, whether you want it to be or not. Usually the quarterback always is, and Tanner's a great representation of that. And I'm really proud of the intangibles, plus the way he's gotten better as a quarterback. I think Kirk Ciarrocca deserves a lot of credit for that. And, but again, we'll see Thursday night where we are and then what we need to continue to do and continue to make improvements in. But I've just seen the leadership role, the intangibles that he has improve dramatically.
How do you feel about your defense coming out of camp and into this season?
I feel good. I mean, everybody, I think, feels good at this point. You've been playing against yourself for so long. You've seen every type of look. You've seen everything you can possibly have against each other. But now I think our defense is ready to play against somebody else. But I've seen tremendous growth. Again, the connectivity part, the togetherness part, everybody on the same page. If you go back to year one, everybody's learning. There's nothing that's repetitive in year one. No matter what coach takes over, what program, year one is very difficult to have repetitive things happen. Year two, you're doing everything you can to master something. Then we make a change, so you're kind of learning again. And now I feel like our team is really in sync with each other in terms of knowing where to be, starting to master the defense, go into level 300 and 400 level thinking on the defensive front. And again, Joe Rossi deserves a lot of credit for that, as well as our defensive staff. They deserve all the credit for that, as well as our players. But I feel better about where we are. I feel like our players understand our system way more than they ever have, and they're playing very well within the system. It's one thing to know the system. It's another thing to play well within the system, and I think that's what we're making strides and having growth. But again, you know about as good as I do. I mean, until you play a game, you have no idea.
To that point, I mean, South Dakota State and Fresno have new quarterbacks. What's the challenge with scheming for something that's an unknown?
Yeah, it's ghosts. I mean, you're scheming for ghosts. You've got to do everything you can to do what you do really well and highlight that through game one. And then from there, make adjustments throughout the game. What do we do as a defense and as an offense, as special teams really well? And then how can we change that throughout the course of the game? How can we make adjustments as you go through the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter? How can you do that? Because everybody has new wrinkles. We have a lot more wrinkles. We're not the same team schematically as we were last year, offense, defense, and special teams in a lot of areas. But in the first game, it's like a heavyweight fight. You're taking each other's first blows in the first few rounds, figuring out each other's game plan out, and then you make adjustments. But for us, we're going to do what we do really well and start with that and then go from there. And I think that's how we've always approached game one in my 7 years of being a head coach. It's all that we've always done. And then you kind of go from there because there's not enough data, especially when you have new quarterbacks. Just because somebody did something last year doesn't mean that's that person's skill set this year. How are you going to change that? And that's when we talk about, last year compared to this year, there is no comparison because it's a completely different team. Might be some similar players, but it's always different. Each year is its own entity, and that's what I mean by that. And again, we gotta be really good at what we do, and that's what needs to be our focus.
What can you tell us about the backfield against SDSU and what you think that split might look like?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think Rodney and Muhammad will take the majority of the carries early, right, and then we'll see how it goes from there, depending on both of their strengths. And we know their strengths, and we know where the schemes and the plays and the situations they're really good at, and we'll highlight those. We do have obviously the ability to play Bryce in his situations that make him really, really good, and then we kind of go from there. You got Trey Potts ready, you got Cam Wiley ready, you got the 4-game rule, so you want those guys to practice really hard. I mean, you look at the 2 freshmen, and I'll even throw Bryce Williams in there. He's had a really good camp. But you throw the other 2 in there, Cam Wiley and Trey Potts, who a lot of people don't know much about. I'm not afraid to put them in the game. And that has nothing to do with like a end of a game scenario. That you might see them in the first, second quarter, just depending on how the game's going and what the strengths are, what we're doing, what we're having success with, what we're not having success with. But I want to keep those guys as fresh as possible, and they've earned that right. But Rodney and Muhammad, those guys are going to be taking the majority of the carries, especially early.
With the Richert Rule, are there any guys that are going to take it off entirely, that are like Tyler Newman maybe, some guys that are not going to redshirt at all?
It's really hard to tell, Andy, just because I could say that, hey, we really want to play Tyler Newman. Something could happen mid-year. Could happen after the 3rd game where I don't want to do that anymore, right? Or the 4th game. We're going to play it game by game. And I think the success we had with playing this redshirt rule last year and kind of getting very familiar with it was I mean, it doesn't matter who we're playing or what the score is. It doesn't matter any of that. But being able to play a lot of people in game 1 is important to me if we feel like they can play. And I think we've got to get them experience no matter what. It doesn't matter who you play. It doesn't matter who your opponent is or where you are. We had success with that last year, and that's a philosophy that I want to continue to have. But to say this person, Tyler Newman's an example, I mean, yeah, would I like to be able to have him this year? Sure. But if he goes through and shows that he can't handle this or can't handle that, I'm not going to, jam a square peg into a round hole. I'm not going to do that. So it's too early to tell. Last year, Daniel Faalele, we wanted to redshirt him. Well, ended up not redshirting them, right? So there's some that we can, some that we can't. Zach Annexted last year would have been an example of we're pulling it, we're playing them, and let's go. But I don't know if there's a true guy that we're going to do that with just yet.
You're talking about some of the intangibles and leadership ability that Tanner has been developing. How much of that has come from how he's kind of latched onto your culture and maybe embodied that? Yeah, I mean, people forget I've known Tanner almost 4 years now. He was committed to us at the prior stop for close to 2 years. And now we're going on basically year 5 of getting to know each other. And that's a long time. That's a long relationship with his family and me and my wife and Tanner. And he's like your son. They're all our sons, right? There's some that are older, which you've been on the planet longer and you know them a little bit more. And then there's some younger ones that have just come out of the womb that you're sitting there going, okay, don't know you just yet. Don't know what you're going to be, but you're still my kid, right? Tanner's one of those guys that are a little bit older, but he's still young in our program, that you know what you're getting every time you put Tanner on the field. You know the competitor, you know the spirit, you know the intangibles, you know the work ethic he has, you know the type of connectability he has with the team. That's what he gets the most out of everybody around him. And I think when he steps into the huddle or he's on the field, there's a sense of urgency with our whole team, and he's earned that. That has not been given to him, especially when you're new. And here comes your influx of quarterbacks, and probably people looked at Tanner, but he's not that big. He's not. I mean, it's not like just Peyton Manning walking in the huddle, right? And here I am. You're Peyton Manning, this 5-star, whatever he was. I don't know. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But like, all right, here's our guy, just because of the hype. Tanner had to earn that, especially in the last few games of last year. Ending up the way he did. And I think that just captured the team as well. So, with Zach's injury, it's unfortunate. Hopefully we'll get him back as well. But, I think Tanner's done a really good job in the role. And, again, I love him as a person. No matter what kind of quarterback he ever turns out to be, I love him like a son. And he is a tremendous person that I hope all of our fans get to know over a long period of time, because he is a special individual. And if you get enough special individuals, you can win a lot of games. And he's a connector of all those guys.
Have you seen enough from Tyler this fall, and what's the next step for him?
Okay, yeah, we have a few more Tylers now. And I was like, Tyler. I've seen a lot from him, seen a lot of growth. And I wish I had Tyler over 4 years since the day he got here. I really do. I wish I had him that early. But the 3 years we've had him, I'll take, right, total. But I think he's developed, and his whole game is becoming complete. He's a better blocker than he was. He's a better leader than he ever was. He's a better pass catcher than he's been, better route runner than he's ever been. I think he's a better student. There's always room for improvement for him, and that's one thing that I think Matt Simon does a really good job of. I mean, he never hits a ceiling. Right? Once he hits a ceiling, we make another ceiling. He breaks through that and goes to something else that he's maybe not able to do. He's been very open to that. And some people aren't. Some people put a wall up and say, look, I'm good, man. I don't need to be coached. I'm going in my last year. I got 3.5 months left here, 4 months here. I'm good. He constantly wants to be coached and wants to be better. But the biggest step he's taken is he spread that to everybody else. Plus, it's his birthday today, so happy birthday to Tyler. So,
when it comes to the momentum that you created at the end of last season, have you seen that continue in camp? And then does that kind of mean like you're expecting to see it in the game, or is it kind of a whole new ball game once you get into it?
Yeah, that's a great question. People always ask me something about, last year, and you had the momentum last year with the Wisconsin win, and then you had Purdue, and then Wisconsin, and then boom, you win the bowl game, and that has nothing to do with this year. I know people get on me all the time. I use this word momentum. I don't believe in that. I don't. And that's something that I've said since I've been a head coach. I just never believed in that. That means somebody's playing really good defense and really bad offense, or really good offense and really bad defense. It is what it, basketball's full of momentums. They go on runs. Well, if we allow that to dictate how we're going to play and how we're going to win, we're not going to be very good. So this year is a completely different entity than last year. The only extension of last year is I hope that people see we can. Like we've proven we can do things. And people for the last year and 10 months were just hoping. We had faith. And then all of a sudden you saw some things that maybe haven't happened here in a long time or ever. And then you're like, okay, well, I see maybe what they're talking about, where maybe we believe that much, or before maybe it was that much. That's okay. Whether that was players, whether that was fans, whether that was our, whoever that are around us. But everybody wants proof. And I think that was just proof that we're ready to do something else. Whatever that something else is this year is going to happen. And we took that and said, we drew a line in the sand. That was last year. This is a whole different year with whole different challenges, difference of how we're going to win, different type of games, different opponents. We're better at some things we were last year, maybe some things we're not as good at in some other areas, but that's up to us to find ways of how are we going to maximize the ability to win. And that has nothing to do with last year. It was a completely different mentality, different team, different seniors, just different camaraderie, different connectivity, different family. But again, the extension part, the only thing is I think that you sit there and go, okay, we can. And then you hang on that and you move on. Right? It gets you closer to the vision, the ultimate vision that you have. And I think that backs it up a little bit, where everybody wants a little bit of proof.
Coach Panagos has said that he wants to have a rotation along the D-line. Where do you feel like the rotation is at 3 technique? How deep do you feel like you're comfortable going?
Well, I feel like we'll be deep as however we have to be deep at 3 technique. I think Keontae Shad's had a really good training camp. I think he really has. I think you look at like Jamal Teague and Micah Treadway and Sam Renner and those guys. We can rotate all those guys depending on, they're interchangeable. Nose three. We're finally at a position where I feel like we can at least rotate guys and not take a step back. And I think that's a compliment, right, to those guys that are playing, because sometimes in years past we've had the guys, and then before if a sub had to go in, it was just a step back somehow, some way. And I don't feel like we have that this year. And how we're running our third down package is very unique and very different, which is going to be able to help us in a lot of other areas, which will be able to help the noses and 3 techniques over the course of a full game as well. So, I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about the progress Jim Panagos has made with that room. He is a fabulous football coach. And you talk about the positivity and this connecting word, right? This together word, this family word. We have that in that room. And for the first time, we have that. And it's authentic, it's real, it's genuine. And he deserves a lot of credit because he took that room and connected it really quickly.
You mentioned the difficulty of scheming against a new quarterback. What else has stuck out early on scheming against South Dakota State?
Well, first of all, South Dakota State, they're a really good football team. I mean, there's no way around that. They're a really good football team. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you can put 3 letters in front of their division. That's hogwash. Who cares? I mean, it does not matter. FBS, FCS, Division I, Division II, like I know that matters to a lot of people, but when you play on game day and you game plan people, that goes out the door in coaches' rooms. We don't look at any of that. And they are picked 3 in the country, number 3 in the country, right? And some of them haven't picked to win a national title, right? Whether it's James Madison, North Dakota State, they're very, very talented. The coach has been there a very long time. Had a lot of cultural sustainability. The expectation there is to win. They play hard against everybody. 2016, they scored 41 points against TCU at TCU when TCU was 13th in the country. Okay, so that these people don't back down to anybody. And we wouldn't expect that any bit. We wouldn't expect that with anybody we play, ever. They're very, very solid all around. They've got a tremendous All-American wide receiver as well as another counterpart, Batman and Robin, if you would, in terms of the wide receiver core. They've got a quarterback who's won the job. That's a redshirt freshman who got to learn behind one of the greatest quarterbacks in South Dakota State history. So you know he's seasoned, ready to go, even though he's a freshman. He can't wait to play. Defensive side of the ball, their linebacker they have, I mean, 4-time All-American. I mean, this kid is really, really special. And they have one of the best kickers in the entire country, no matter what level. So when you look at them top to bottom, they're a tough physical football team, plays very sound. They're very well coached. And you got to give them their compliments because they're a really good football team. On our end, we need to worry about us. We need to be the best football team we can be. And it doesn't matter who you play. We have to be able to focus on our style of football. How are we going to play our style of football better than they play their style of football as best as they can, no matter who the opponent is. But you got to give them a lot of credit. They're a really good football team. And, again, look forward to it 8 o'clock on Thursday.
We got 1 or 2 more for Coach.
There was a big punt return in the season opener last year. Who's your number 1 punt returner this year?
We'll see. We're still thinking about that. It's all depending on conditions, where we're at in the game. We have options now. I thought last year we didn't have options. Number 11 obviously is very, very dynamic, right? 82 proved he can do it as well. I mean, it's not like you had one take one back, one didn't. I mean, they both can do it. It's just how much do you want to put on some other people? Same thing with kick return right now. I haven't made that final call. I mean, they'll be called up. They're like the bullpen guys, man. They'll go in there at any point, go be a punt returner, and if we can do multiple punt returners, we will. If we can do multiple kick returners, we will. And that's something that we haven't had before. And I'm glad that we finally have that.
Anybody not available for Thursday?
Not anybody that I didn't expect to be unavailable. Cool. All right, thanks, everybody. Row the boat, Sky Mile, go Gophers. Thank you.